Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, members of Cabinet, Mr. Sin Said Khan, Country Director for the Caribbean at the World Bank, Ambassador Vince Henderson, Permanent Secretaries, Board and staff of the Dominica Geothermal Development Company, staff of the World Bank, the media, Dominicans listening via the radio. A pleasant good morning to everyone. Today we gather for the signing of the agreements for the financing of the geothermal development project, which will include the construction of a domestic plant. Under this project, we will see coming into our homes electricity generated from the use of geothermal energy, clean energy. We welcome all of you to this important ceremony, one which we hope will signal a significant change in the development of our country. At this time, I invite Mr. Sin Said Khan, Country Director for the Caribbean at the World Bank, to deliver some remarks.
Good morning to everyone. Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, members of Cabinet present here, Ambassador Vince Henderson, Ambassador Edward Lambert, Permanent Secretaries, the Board and staff of the Dominica Geothermal Development Company, media, all the friends and Dominicans listening via radio, and my own colleagues from the World Bank. Again, a very warm good morning to you. We were a short while ago having a meeting chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister along with members of the Cabinet, and I will repeat what I said there. From on a personal level and on behalf of the World Bank, nothing ever gives me more pleasure and more happiness than being on the soil of Dominica. And it is a very strong feeling of partnership, as well as empathy, as well as togetherness that the World Bank feels for Dominica and its people. And I'm reminded that it's almost a year ago, or maybe just maybe a few days short of a year ago, Honorable Prime Minister, that we sat in this room to sign two projects and for the agriculture as well as for the housing after the emergency of Hurricane Maria. And it's really an incredible opportunity, an honor to be back here a year later and use this opportunity to sign the geothermal investment project with Dominica. Just a few words that I wanted to say about this engagement on geothermal with Dominica, and also on broader the World Bank's commitment to the Caribbean as a whole and Dominica specifically. On the geothermal project, I believe your population may be aware or may not be aware that this is the first World Bank Group funded geothermal project in the Caribbean since 30 years. So this is a very important milestone event for pursuing the agenda of renewables and the demonstrable commitment of Dominica to its stated goal of becoming climate resilient. So I salute you, Honorable Prime Minister, your team, your Ministry of Energy, your establishment of the company that you have set up, the Dominica Geothermal Development Company, to proceed forward. And we are really hopeful that this investment has the potential to, because this is for domestic purposes, which is absolutely essential, the 7 megawatts that it would generate, but it has the potential over time to for you to further expand geothermal outputs that can be potentially be used as an economic diversification tool for export purposes. One of the key aspects that we from the World Bank and with other partners often talk about with our Caribbean countries is the diversification, and because tourism is a big draw. But for you, the economic diversification is right there on the renewable energy front, which I wanted to mention as an aspirational goal for Dominica. So it does have the potential of being quite transformative for future generations. And this, I speak to the youth, that this is not just a technical geothermal project, but it has this aspiration of export going forward when expanded, and also move Dominica to clean energy and a low carbon economy. The other point I wanted to highlight here is that from the part of the World Bank side, we work very closely with international development partners and the international development community. This is part of our role and our mandate to make sure that we complement the support that's coming from other resources, especially grant financing, and we do not supersede or duplicate. So I'm very, very proud of the fact, and I do want to acknowledge the extremely consistent and relentless leadership of our team leader, Ms. Elvira. She's sitting right there, who has relentlessly pursued this project. And not only that, from the concessional financing window of the World Bank, where we are bringing over $17 million, but also bringing in financing from grant financing for trust funds and from bilateral funding. So this project actually has over 20 million of trust fund financing, which is pure grant, and over 10 million of deferred government financing, which is again grant, and $2 million of New Zealand financing. And New Zealand also has been very, very helpful in providing solid and strong technical support. So overall, if you look at the over $51 million project, this brings together, leverages a huge amount of grant resources. And that's the point I think it's important to note, and also to say that from the World Bank side, we are very committed to continue to play this role for our member countries, and especially for the Caribbean and for Dominica, where we leverage the financing we bring from our concessional financing window, Honorable Prime Minister, and bring in more resources on grant terms where we can. And this was a classic opportunity to do it. Lastly, for the Caribbean countries, we have the World Bank is active in the entire Caribbean region, where in many countries we have financing programs, in many countries technical advisory program. In the last over the last course of 5+ years or so, we have collectively brought in close to, along with our International Finance Corporation, our private sector arm, close to about $3 billion of financing for the Caribbean countries. That includes Jamaica and Dominican Republic and Haiti. And those are large countries where they're big financing. For Dominica, with the signing of this project, just the pure World Bank financing would be at touching above $130 million, which is, I think, would be the largest financing portfolio from the OECS countries that we'll have for Dominica. So we're looking forward to a very, very successful implementation of the geothermal risk mitigation project. And we are extremely proud that you invited us to join in your efforts for clean energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. And thank you for the work of the World Bank on this project. At this time, I invite Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, to address us.
Thank you very much, FS. Let me first of all recognize the presence of the Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Reginald Austrie, and my cabinet colleagues present. Also, our dear friend, Ms. Tahsin Said Khan, the Country Director for the Caribbean and the World Bank, Ambassador Vince Henderson, Ambassador Steve Farrell, Ambassador Edward Lambert, the Financial Secretary, Permanent Secretaries, Board and staff of the Dominica Geothermal Development Company, our dear delegation from the World Bank, the media, Dominicans listening via live broadcast of this very short but significant ceremony. I am indeed happy to be signing another agreement with the World Bank, this time for the geothermal project. This is the fourth agreement we have signed since the passage of Hurricane Maria. The previous ones being for housing, agriculture, and small business support. That is the partial credit guarantee scheme. As a matter of fact, we were in Parliament on Monday to finalize the legal arrangements to access these funds. The signing of this agreement today is another milestone in our quest to develop the geothermal potential of Dominica. The approval of the financing allows us to move swiftly towards the construction of the domestic plant. I must express our profound thanks and gratitude to the World Bank for its commitment and for working with us over the last few years on this project. You provided much of the technical support that was required in the early phases of the development of the project, and you continue to do so up to today. The approval of the financing is almost a logical conclusion to the engagement that we have had. We acknowledge too the other donors who have agreed to work with you to finance the geothermal project. I therefore acknowledge the contribution of the Government of the United Kingdom, which is providing financial support in the form of a grant to this project. I also acknowledge the Clean Technology Fund and SIDSDOC, both of whom are partnering with us by way of financing. Of course, we acknowledge the contribution of the European Union, the Agence Française de Développement, who were engaged and provided financing in the exploratory phase of the geothermal project. We thank the government of New Zealand, who has provided full-time technical support as well. If anything, ladies and gentlemen, the geothermal project is a perfect example of how development partners, working together with government, can come together to bring important development programs to reality. I am advised that in the next few weeks, we'll be engaged in a number of activities, including the selection of the contractors and working towards the accomplishment of the conditions for effectiveness of the loan. In the process, we will complete the land acquisition and finalize the power purchase agreement with Domlec and completing the concession agreement as well. This government has not allowed the impact of Hurricane Maria to distract us from developing this country. Hurricane Maria has delayed us in the implementation of our plans, but it has also reinforced our resolve to build this country better. The development of the geothermal is part of that plan, but it is not just an end in itself. It is a means to a greater end. For one, geothermal development is critical to our goal of becoming the first climate resilient nation of the world. Everything we are doing in Dominica has to be climate resilient, as we cannot afford to rebuild the country every 2 to 3 years. This project will help us diversify our economy, our energy mix, and invest in greener and more reliable energy source so we can be up and running shortly after a storm. We expect, therefore, that the use of clean, green energy and the reduction in the use of fossil fuels will enhance and protect the environment. We take very seriously the commitments given to reducing the carbon footprint, and while at this, we are not net polluters of the environment. We will continue to take action to ensure environmental preservation. Moreover, our investments in other sectors will therefore greatly benefit from the geothermal energy. All our investments in new hotel infrastructure, the new schools being built, the new smart health centers, the new national hospital, the new housing complexes, all of these will benefit from the availability of clean and green energy. Clean and cheaper energy is also an important factor in our plans for an international airport. We are moving full steam ahead with these plans. In the last 2 days, the World Bank has had a field mission here in Dominica in the hope of designing a project geared at improvement and resilience in air transportation. Central to this project, we hope, will be the possibility of accessing the technical capacity that government requires to manage, administer, and implement the International Airport project. We know that the World Bank can provide access to that capacity, and we look forward to the engagement on this project in the very short term. As a matter of fact, in our discussion this morning, that issue of air access was discussed with the World Bank. And the World Bank has agreed, has indicated their willingness to provide us with this technical advice, not only on the processes involved in the construction of International Airport, but addressing some observations at both the Douglas Childs Airport and the Canefield Airport to allow us to be more technologically advanced and also to ensure that our airports can be ICAO compliant, Dominica now being a member of ICAO. So we are very grateful to the bank for this offer of assistance, and I have, on behalf of Dominica, fully accepted all of the help we can get towards the realization of the International Airport for Dominica. For the private sector too, the geothermal project will have very positive impact. Dominica has often been said to have the highest per unit cost of electricity. The goal is to ensure that with the introduction of geothermal energy, that on average, the cost of electricity will be reduced. The citizens of Dominica should see the portfolio of projects being implemented as part of a broad plan of development. Projects are not done in isolation, but each project is intended to form part of the larger plan that will result in a better life for all our citizens. We see the geothermal project as a game changer for Dominica. I continue to encourage our young people to get qualified in the skills that are needed to manage and administer the development and use of geothermal power. I must acknowledge the role of DOMLEC for engaging with government on this matter. While we focus on the production, DOMLEC has the responsibility for transmission. We expect that this collaboration will continue. I also wish to publicly recognize the exceptional contribution of Ambassador Dr. Vince Henderson, who has been instrumental in all the phases of this project, from exploratory phase to the signing of this financing agreement today, and we would like to recognize his efforts. We could also almost say that Vince is a geothermal man. I look forward to the implementation of this project, and even more so, to the people of Dominica enjoying the benefits of this major investment by this government. And Madam, kind of would like to thank you very much for the empathy which yourself and your staff have shown to our country since this hurricane. The World Bank has been really at the center of our response in all spheres. And for me, it's not only about the material benefits that we have been receiving from the World Bank, is the sheer human empathy and concern and care which the World Bank has shown from day one up to today. And I shall always be, on behalf of the people of Dominica, be eternally grateful to yourself personally and to your staff and to the institution, the World Bank. And I have seen that the World Bank can work very fast, can move very fast, and I am now a major proponent of the World Bank, having followed the doctrine according to Thomas, who wanted to see the nails, the piercing of the nails in Jesus' hands and so on. So having seen that, I have now been converted to be a major supporter and proponent and defender of the World Bank. And we do not say so lightly. We mean every single word we say. And I believe Dominicans should see today's signing as a red letter day for our country. And the managing director has pointed out that the last time such an engagement was done in our part of the world was some 30 years ago. So really this is also an historic event for our country. And our hope and prayer is that we can see this project to a successful completion and implementation so that our citizens can start benefiting from this. And based on expert advice, we can see a reduction in the cost of electricity to our citizens and to investors in our country. And notwithstanding the hurricane, as I said, because most countries, most governments would have decided to set this important project aside, recognizing the other challenges which we have to confront. But we have always maintained that this project is a project that we have to proceed with because of the attendant benefits to our country. And I'm happy that the government stuck with this project and we continue to persevere, notwithstanding the enormous task we have of rebuilding this country after the historical devastation of our country. And with partners like the World Bank, we are satisfied and comforted by the fact that we shall overcome our challenges and be a stronger and more resilient nation in the near future. Thank you very much, and may God bless us.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, for your address and for the reassurance of the development plans for Dominica. At this time, the agreements will be signed, given that a number of donors are involved. the trust fund, the SIDSDOC, and DFID. Various agreements will be signed to reflect each of these interventions. The Honorable Prime Minister will sign on behalf of the Government of Dominica. Ms. Said Khan will sign on behalf of the World Bank. The project will be implemented through the Dominica Geothermal Development Company, and they too will be required to sign on to the project document to ensure that they are in full compliance with the project as is designed. The representative for the Geothermal Development Company is Mr. Fred John, the acting chairperson.
No, it's only the signature. Prime Minister, all these signings are testament to how collectively the international partners have come together.
That's right.
That's what it shows, because there's so many that we are signing for on their behalf. It's unusual. We don't have this many. This is such a conglomerate of supporters right here.
No. All right.
You're very well trained now, FS. FS, you're well trained on this now. You can become a lawyer in our unit.
So next it comes the project agreements in the bank and
Yes.
the GDC. So this is going
Do
to
you want to exchange first before you do the GDC? You want to do an exchange before?
Yeah, and shake hands and
Before, and then we do the GDC.
maybe we need to. Have we signed with the Prime Minister all, Elvira?
Yes.
Have we signed all with? So maybe we need to say,
the exchange.
exchange and shake hands. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure as always.
Sure.
Pleasure.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. But you're absolutely right, Prime Minister, because one of the first questions I asked Elvira a month after the hurricane, that is the geothermal project off? Are they going to divert? She said no, they're just going to be delayed, but not off.
That's
I remember asking her exactly that's what she said. All done. Well done. We need a photograph with the lady. Come in the middle. Come, please. FSU too. Yes, Mr. Jones. Yes. You need to be right next to the front. Yes. Thank you. Can you take with your... Thank you. Thanks a lot.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
This brings to an end our ceremony this morning. Short, important, significant. We look forward to the completion of this project, and we pray God's blessings in its implementation, and hope that in the final analysis, the people of Dominica will be the full beneficiaries. Thank you very much. A pleasant day to all.
Thank you. Oh.